Hello everyone, this is just Tresha here to do a content warning because we didn't do one when we first recorded this episode. This episode does contain the mention of suicide. If you are not comfortable with that, you do not have to listen to this episode. You could listen to the next one possibly. Also, the audio in this episode is a bit weird. I'm not sure what's happening there. You'll hear the difference probably between this recording right now and in the episode when it starts, and also in the editor's note that happens halfway through the episode for some reason. But yes, I hope you enjoy it regardless. If you choose to listen, goodbye. Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of Shownanigans. I am Tube.
And I'm Dube.
Also known as
Deva.
And Tresha. So today we're going to be talking about Hedgefund Homeboys, episode 3 of Castle. Now, Dubemund, if you were to describe...
Dubemund? Okay, this is new. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I said Dubemund. Dubemund.
Uh-huh.
If you were to summarize this episode, how would you do that with your Dubemund words?
Okay, so this episode is about some guy.
Some guy. They're all about some guy.
It's about a school boy who's from a private school who gets murdered, and he somehow ends up he ends up murdered in a boat in the middle of like a body of water. I don't know which body of water it is.
I don't think they said. You don't have to be so specific. It's a summary.
Yeah, so he just winds up dead on a boat.
That's it. That's it. So at the beginning of the episode, Castle is in his kitchen. He's talking to his daughter, and we find out that his daughter is going to DC on a trip.
Yes.
And then she wants him to chaperone, but he's busy doing something, and so he can't come. Specifically, she says, "Hey, my friend's dad is back in rehab," and I'm like, wow. And then Castle's mom comes in and says that she has class, and Castle's like, "That's debatable."
It's a life coaching class that she's taking, or that she's teaching. Sorry.
No, isn't she taking a life coaching class so she can teach how to life coach or something?
Is that what she's doing?
Something like that. What did you think was happening?
I thought she was teaching it, but it's okay.
Okay. Either or. So, we forgot to say the song playing at the beginning. There was another song again when the dead guy came. It was Jezebel.
Yeah, and it wasn't like a very modern song this time, like pop. It wasn't a pop song this time. It was more like kind of like a ballad rock.
Yeah, it was like a ballad rock song that was like Jezebel, and I was like,
that's exactly it.
Jezebel.
Which is funny because like in the other episodes that we watched, it's all like about older people, right? Like the cases were more older people involved.
I mean, the last one had a girl. It was a babysitter.
Well, oh yeah, that's true. Well, I don't have like pop songs, and then this one is it's like the setting is in like school, and all you hear is like ballad rock, old ballad rock. Jezebel.
Yeah, but anyhow, Castle's phone rings,
mm-hmm.
and all you hear is, I wrote it down, it's Toccata and Fugue in D minor.
Mm-hmm.
So it's da na 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 na,
oh
right?
My God.
Yeah, so that rings, and he knows that it's Kate Beckett calling.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh hey, where's the next dead person? And then they go down to the water, and they find the dead guy in the boat.
Yeah. So everyone arrives at the scene. Basically, they're just inspecting the body, and they're wondering like how it happened and stuff. And then they determine that the body was murdered and then moved onto the boat.
Mm-hmm.
So it couldn't have been that he was murdered inside the boat, basically. Yeah. Someone moved in there.
Yeah, so the kid's name is Donnie.
Yes.
And based on his uniform, they figure out that he's going to a prep school called Reading.
Yes. And
that he was shot.
So they first go to, like after the scene, they go to visit Donnie's parents. It's just like a normal scene. They're just kind of like oh, like our boy is dead, and they're just kind of mourning for his loss.
They didn't seem very sad. They were just sitting there like, oh yeah, he's dead.
Well,
I guess he's dead.
Well, they were just kind of like, okay, move on. Like, they didn't have anything to contribute to the case, really. They were just like, we're his parents. We're sad. That's it.
We're his parents. We're sad. He's dead. All right,
move on to the next person.
Yeah.
Then...
So they find out basically while talking to his parents. Well, Castle figures out that they had just moved there because he saw that the paintings on the wall were too big for that house. So obviously they lived in a bigger place before. So basically this prep school is like a school for rich kids, and it costs a lot of money. And his dad worked for Lehman. He was a partner at Lehman, which I assume is like a law firm.
Yeah.
And so, but he's not partner anymore. He doesn't work there anymore. So they've lost a lot of money. So they've moved from their old, I guess, mansion to this apartment. And it's like, it was a bit hard on Donnie because he's lost a lot of money, and he has his friends that he hangs out with, and it's kind of not the same as it used to be when he had a lot of money.
Yeah.
And now they can't pay for his school, so he's on a scholarship.
Yeah. So he's not very rich.
Anymore. Yeah. Poor rich boy. So then Kate and Castle realize that Donnie had some friends, so they go to question his friends. And there's like, how many of them? There's Amanda, Brandon, Spencer,
Max,
Romy. Which was played by like Jamie Chung, who's in like Wendy Homeschool Warrior. Yeah.
This is editing Trisha, just coming in to say that it is Wendy Wu Homecoming Warrior. Past Trisha, you dummy.
And she was also in Days of Our Lives.
Dr. Drake Ramore. She wasn't Dr. Drake Ramore.
She no.
Kate and Castle start questioning the friends, and they realize that Donnie was dealing drugs. Yes, he was feeling kind of bad because he couldn't afford to be able to hang out with his friends, basically, because his friends are all rich kids, and they all do rich kid stuff. And his friends said, oh yeah, we would ask him if he wants us to front him the money, but he would say no because he doesn't. He wanted to like use his own money. I guess he has a bit of an ego or whatever. It's his pride.
Yeah.
So he.
Well, I can kind of understand that though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he decides he's going to deal drugs to make the money.
That I don't understand, but yes.
Kate did this really cool thing. She was like, the kids didn't really want to talk to her. And she was like, look, guys, I understand. I went to York. I know you want to protect your friend and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then, you were going to say?
Yeah, and then they're, after that, Castle and Beckett are walking away from the school.
No. They get a call from Kevin because he's found the initial scene of the crime where the kid got originally shot.
Yeah. At that time, they started talking about the Castle started talking about the plaid skirts.
Yeah.
And the knee-high socks and stuff, and I'm just like, purr.
Yeah. I'm like, I have in my notes, Castle is gross and wants to see Beckett in a plaid uniform, a plaid school uniform. Yeah, because she's like, oh, I went to York, and he was saying, you went to York. Oh, I'd love to see pictures of you in your school uniform. And I'm like, ew.
And she was like, I didn't even actually go to a private school. I went to a public school, Castle. So it was just a front for the kids, really.
Yeah, she's like, I should join your poker game. I should actually join your poker game. I'm pretty good. So like we were saying just before that, when they were walking towards the initial scene of the crime, because they got a call from Kevin.
Yeah.
And so, not Esposito, but Kevin.
So they got a call from him, and I think Lainey was also there. And they were just like talking about like basically different scenarios of the body being moved and stuff like that. And they were like basically by the big like bench area, and they were saying if the body was just was moved right after he was shot, then there'd be a lot of blood, like there'll be a big blood trail, right? So they concluded that like the body was just kept there for a little bit and then moved later on.
Yeah.
So then they were talking about like if it was a drug dealer that murdered him, then was it like a smart drug dealer, something like that? And
it's a bit weird for a drug dealer to murder somebody, leave, and then come back to move the body so that people wouldn't think it was a drug dealer. Drug dealer would just shoot him and be like, I'm a drug dealer, bye.
Yeah.
Right?
And drug dealers are not that smart to begin with.
Are you sure? You don't know many drug dealers.
Okay, true, I don't have the experience, but...
Do you know what drug dealers do? What have you been doing?
I used to be one back in the... No.
I can't imagine you as a drug dealer. A lot of you can't see Duke, but she's tiny and brown. Can you imagine?
Okay, what does brown have to do?
No, you're I don't know, but you are. Can you imagine a tiny little brown girl coming up to me like, hello.
Would you like some drugs?
Would you like some drug? I have many drugs. And then you like open your jacket and there's like all these drugs on your jacket. You're like, I have these.
I wear like a long coat.
You're like the merchant from Resident Evil. You're like, what are you buying? What are you selling?
I'd be a very cute drug dealer.
A very cute drug dealer.
One of a kind.
Oh my god. Everybody would come from far and wild to get your drugs because they're like, I like her. She's cute. She gives great customer service.
Okay, if I was to be any kind of drug dealer,
God.
that's the one I would be. Okay, I'm not actually a drug dealer, guys.
I didn't think you were. I don't think anybody thinks
I'm just
you're
trying
a
to
drug
relate to this episode.
She's square.
Yes.
She's too square.
Shut up.
I'm square. I'm very square. Okay. So what happens after that?
They receive a tip from Mrs. Farciano.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote her name down, but it's this really spunky lady that was at the crime scene.
She's like Italian. She's like a loud Italian, like Joey from Friends or something.
She actually reminds me of that one lady, the really funny one. Joey's
mom?
Manager?
Oh yeah, she is like Joey's manager.
Yeah, the way she speaks is like that, like very upfront and like spunky and like sassy and like with a hint of like rudeness.
Only there for like 5 seconds, but I remember her the most out of the whole episode. Kevin says something like, "Are you sure it was this guy?" She's like, "Yeah, what do you want?
Yeah.
What do you want from me? Of course it's this guy. You want me to take a lie detector test?"
And even before that, she's like, come over here, I remember something.
Yeah.
And he came, and she's like, oh, you remembered who it was? And she's like, no, I just wanted to see your beautiful face or something like that.
And I'm like, nobody wants to see Kevin's face, so she must be joking. We only want to see Esposito.
Well, they're in terms of look, they're good. They're fine.
They're fine?
Yeah. It's just the name, really.
Okay.
The sound of their name.
We should rank the characters at the end of this.
Should be.
Yes, we should.
Okay. Sure.
Look forward to that. But yeah, the woman says that she saw a man running from the park where that kid was shot, and she identifies somebody in the book because there was this. She saw a white guy, and so she's looking through a book of white guys, basically.
Yeah.
Previously arrested white guys.
To see who it was that resembled him the most, or who it was.
Yeah, and she says that it was this person called Mr. Scoville.
Yes.
So they bring in Scoville, and he's had priors for drug dealing without a firearm.
And he says that he sold drugs to Donnie and his friends as well. So he mentions that, and then when he mentioned his friends, because he said he described his friends basically. He was like, oh, this really hot Asian girl and this spunky guy.
Jamie Chung, she is very hot.
Yeah. And they Castle and Beckett just look at each other like, wow, they lied.
Yeah, and also like in that whole scene, Castle's like, well, if we know that he was there at the park, why don't we just book him? And the sergeant's there, and they're looking in from behind the two-way mirror at Kate in the questioning room. And the sergeant says, well, we need to get enough evidence against him for the DA.
Yeah.
So Kate's trying to get him to confess without like forcing him. So she basically makes him give her the information that yes, he was at the park. Yes, he saw the kids. Yes, there were lots. It was more than just Donnie. And yes, he was dealing drugs to them. So he offers that information by himself, even though at the beginning he didn't want to.
Yeah.
But Kate sort of brings it out of him in her own technique, which is really good.
Yeah, she's really good at like what do you call it? Like intimidating people enough in order to get more information from them.
Yeah.
Which is part of her job as well. So like she's good.
Like she at one point he it looks like he's clammed up and he's not going to say anything. She's like, okay, fine. I'll see you in court then.
Yeah.
And she gets up to leave and he's like, okay, fine. I'll tell you the rest of it.
25 years later, I'll get a line from you. Or something. Yeah. She says like that
because she's already gotten some information, but she hasn't gotten enough to like. For her, she's gotten enough to like book him, but she doesn't have enough for herself.
Yeah,
but she knows she can pull out more if she intimidates him in that way. So then Kate and Castle go back to the school to Reading, and they question how many kids are there? So many children.
5.
The 5 kids.
5 kids, I think.
Yeah. So she questions them, and she's like, "You guys lied to me. Do you know what that's called? That's called obstruction.
Yeah.
You guys could get arrested. You could go to jail." And there's this one kid in the front named Max, and he's looking pretty, like, everybody's looking pretty nervous, except for Max, who's really nervous, and this other kid named Brandon who's looking pretty, like, you know what I mean?
He's just, like, Brandon's just, like, chill.
Yeah.
And Romy as well. Romy looks like she's, like, nervous, like, all the time.
Yeah.
She's, like, very, I don't know, the way that she acts is, like, you can tell that she's, like, lying. She's about to lie. Because she just kind of, like, sometimes she bites her fingers, sometimes she just looks from left and right, and her eyes are always, like, about to well up.
So they keep questioning them, and, like, the kids, they obviously don't want to answer. They don't want to get into trouble or anything like that, and they don't want to get their friend Donnie into trouble. And so and then Brandon perks up and he says, guys, why don't we just tell them the truth? And everybody, including Max, just kind of looks at him like, what do you mean? Like, tell them the truth. And Brandon says, we were at the park, we were partying, we go there and we party sometimes.
Yeah.
And this guy came, and he's demanding money from Donnie. He wants $200, and Donnie doesn't have it. So, the guy just shoots Donnie and runs away.
Yeah, and they basically, like, each person, I think it was almost as if they were all synced together, because after he said that, the next person said something else to go along with that, and the next person would say something else to go along with that. So they were like, oh yeah, like, this is also what I saw there, and that's also what I saw there, and then he did this, and he did that. So they all
corroborated the story, basically.
Yeah.
So they bring Romy in. I'm not sure why they chose Romy.
Oh, because Romy was the closest to see the person.
Oh, yeah. They were saying, well, who shot him then? You guys must have seen who shot him.
Because it was really dark, so no one could really see.
Yeah, well...
But Romy was the closest to the person.
Yeah. I think Brandon says something like, it was really dark, we couldn't see who it was. And then they said, well, who was the closest to the end of the bench? Yeah. And it was Romy. So they bring Romy in, and they have a lineup of white guys, basically. And they have Scoville in the lineup. And she picks out Scoville and says it was him.
Number 2.
It's number 2. It was that guy.
Yeah.
Who was it? What did he do? He shot Donnie.
And it's all like, dun dun dun. Like, it was so dramatic. He's like, he was the one. He shot Donnie.
And then we have a quick whiplash back over to Castle's apartment. And he's watching his daughter sleep.
And, before that, though, he was with Alexis, like his daughter, and they were just talking about her friends, saying...
Yeah, he was watching her sleep, and then he says, you know, when you were younger, I used to watch you sleep all the time, and her daughter's like, what the hell is wrong with you? And he's like, you know, you used to drool and get this little, like, thing on your side of the mouth. You look so adorable. She's like, what's going on, Dad? And it's like... He was a bit shaken up from the case because he saw all these teens getting into trouble, and he thought of himself and how, like, when he was younger, all the trouble he used to get into.
Yeah.
And then he realized, oh my God, like, this could happen to my daughter.
Yeah.
And then he starts asking her, like, about her friends. He's like, do you do drugs? She's like, Dad, no, I don't do any drugs. And she, like, goes...
She doesn't even, like, go home late or anything. She's, like, a really, like, good girl. Like, she does everything. She goes home on time. She goes to school on time. She's very, like, perfectionist in her own way. Like, super organized. And she follows by the rules. Like, she's a very law-abiding citizen.
She's the complete opposite to what Castle was when he was a kid.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know, I know all the trouble teens could get into. Like, I got into a lot of trouble. She's like, I know. That's why I don't do it. I'm not you. I'm not you.
Yeah.
And he's, like, questioning her friends. He's like, would they ever give you drugs? Would they do drugs? Blah, blah. She's like, Dad, I know my friends, and if anything were to happen, I'd come to you. And also, if anything were to happen to me, my friends would have my back.
Yeah.
And that's when Castle realizes your friends have your back.
She says, like, my friends would bail me out. And then Castle goes, because that's what friends do. Duh, duh, duh. Like, then he, like, connects it to the case. Yeah, so then he starts to think it doesn't make sense because if
Scoville identified Romy, and then Romy identifies Scoville as the killer. It doesn't make any sense at all. It should be somebody maybe that they don't know, but they all seem to know each other, and they all seem to be backing up. The kids just seem to be backing up each other all the time, no matter what. Yeah. So obviously they're covering up for one of them. One of them probably killed Donnie. Not Scoville.
So I think Kevin was saying, why would they pin it on each other, right? And Castle was like, only if one of them is the one that did it, right? So then then the suspect becomes like either of the friends, basically. Could be any one of
could
the
be
friends.
Amanda, could be Brandon, could be Max, could be whichever one.
Yeah.
So they
I think they went back to Scoville.
Yeah.
And
they go to his cell because he's been arrested for murder.
Yeah.
For the murder.
And
he's got his lawyer there with him.
Yeah. All of them had lawyers except one.
Every single person who has been or who will be questioned for this murder has a lawyer except for one person. But yeah, we'll get to that.
So when they went to see Scoville, they were the name Scoville reminds me of the guy from Prison Break because his name is Michael Schofield. That was Schofield. Never mind.
How did Schofield remind you of Scoville?
I don't know.
Smallville could have reminded you of that.
Smallville?
You were thinking of Smallville when we were watching. You said something like bah, she's in Smallville or something.
One of the characters.
Oh yeah, okay. There's a hole in your pants.
I know.
You're also covered in cat hair.
I live in a cat house.
I thought you were gonna say I live in a cat.
I don't live inside a cat.
There was an old dude who lived in a cat.
What rhymes with that?
Nothing. So they go to Scoville and they start.
They were like interrogating him basically, and he spurts out that Donnie wasn't buying drugs from Scoville. He was working for Scoville. And I just have here that the lawyer is really annoying because he kept being really weird.
He kept interrupting. He's like, Kate, if my client was bippity bop, then he wouldn't be boopity boop. And I'm like, oh my god, shut up.
And he was like, I mean, like he let Scoville. He let Scoville.
Hello there. Don't you know? Hello. It's really cold in Minnesota.
He let Scoville like talk because they were, I don't know, Kate was saying something like he needs to speak or something like that.
There's no reason he can't speak because he can't incriminate himself any further, basically.
Exactly. And the lawyer was like, yeah, she's right, like go ahead and speak or something. But he said something else instead.
Because he knew that his client couldn't incriminate himself any further. He's already down for murder. What else could happen, right?
Yeah. That's when he was like
that's when that's when Scoville says
that he was working. Donnie was working for Scoville.
Also, his friends were working for him too.
And his friends too.
Yeah.
His friends, like every single time they lie and then something happens and then they, like lie again. Like,
it's like these. It's. I mean, I feel like kids from a public school might do that too, but it's these rich kids. They want to protect their like identity and like their money and their ego and everything and their pride.
And I guess their parents too. Like I think for like rich kids, certain rich kids have like really strict parents as well.
And high expectations.
With really high expectations, so they don't want to do anything that would actually like hurt their reputation or get in trouble with them, basically, right? So they're very protective of themselves and their friends as well. They're trying to protect their friends as well as themselves and
their own interests.
Their own, yeah.
And also, the reason they wanted to... I think they saw Donnie was dealing the drugs, and then they were like, that seems kind of fun and dangerous. Like, we never get to do anything dangerous. Our parents are like helicopter parents. We're just like these perfect little rich kids. Let's try dealing drugs too. So they were just doing it for fun.
Yeah.
So, but Scoville says that he couldn't have shot anybody because he doesn't carry a firearm, which ties in with his previous arrest of dealing drugs without a firearm.
Yeah.
And then the lawyer's like, see, Kate, see?
Yeah.
He's like, it makes sense, Kate. You want to try again? You want to get my guy? Then come back here and try again, Kate. And it's like, go away.
Yeah. The way he was speaking, like, his tone of voice is so annoying.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, is your part over yet?
It's like he's met Kate before.
Yeah.
And, like, they've had something happen.
But it's not the case. It's just the way he was talking. He was just, like, very informal and, like, he was
just an ass.
Yeah. No, like...
Like, we met him for 5 seconds and he was such an ass. But anyways, they realized that it couldn't have been him at all. It couldn't have been Mr. Scoville at all. He doesn't have a weapon. He wouldn't have... They just call him Mr. Scoville. They never say his first name. His name could have been, like, Jim or something. I mean,
Jim Scoville.
Jim Scoville. Tom Clancy. No. I think you wrote down more after this because I have a big gap in between my notes as to what happened next.
So they went back to their friends.
Oh, no. What happens is they go back to question Romy at her house with her parents.
Oh yeah, that was like in between, yeah.
Yeah.
So they went back to her parents' place, and her parents were annoyed at Kate and Castle for coming in to question because she's like, they were saying, oh, she's already said everything she needed to. Why are you back here? Kind of like that. And Romy was like saying she was just going along, and then they said something, and that
Kate asks Romy for her bag, and she picks up. She goes, Gucci, and Romy's like, what does my bag have to do with anything? And Kate goes through the bag and finds a big wad of cash, and she's like, just as I suspected, you had enough money to give to Donnie's killer. Why didn't you give it to him? Unless he didn't exist, right? And then Romy keeps looking at her parents. She wants them to back her up, but her parents are getting really suspicious of her too.
Yeah.
And then she realizes she has nobody's there to back her up. Her friends aren't there. Nobody's gonna.
I mean, what are the parents gonna say? Like, they have like meaningful suspicions, right?
They have doubt.
They have like meaningful doubt basically. Yeah. So everything that Castle and Beckett are saying is making sense, right? So the parents are like, okay, this makes sense. So what's going on? Yeah, and she doesn't have her friends there, so her friends can't back her up like normal. Her friends can't make up an excuse. They can't cover for her. She has to say something. She has to tell the truth. Yeah. And the truth is that one of them did shoot Donnie. Yes. Basically, the whole story of somebody coming and demanding money was made up. Yep. Something that they fabricated. By Brandon. Brandon, who instigated it first, and then everyone else kind of just followed him. Yeah. So then Romy says what happened is they play a game sometimes where they point a gun at each other and they shoot. Like Russian roulette. It's just for fun. They like walking on the edge sometimes. Like, they like being edgy teens because their lives are so perfect, I guess. They like having a little danger. I guess if you think in the eyes of like private schools and like rich kids, like, even like regular teens, I guess. I feel like in private schools, though, they invest a lot more money into the students. And so they might have more pressure. Because I've never been to a private school, but I feel like they would have a little bit more pressure. Because in public schools, generally, the parents, they're not as strict, no? I think it's I don't know. No. I feel like parents are just as strict at public schools. They want their kids to do the best. So maybe it's like the pressure from that. It's like perfection. I guess. From pressure to like, I don't know. Maybe. They want them to be like really perfect. Maybe. Like even if you have a little bit of a fault, like even if you get like a little bit less of a grade or whatever, I feel like they're more like, oh, why didn't you get an A, like an A+? I don't know. I feel like my mom did that to me too, but we were public school kids, so I think it's the same thing. It's just there's more money involved. Yeah. So it's like it's just the money part, I think. The money part is the only difference, really. Yeah. So it's like these kids, they want a little walk on the wild side. They want to feel something. They want to like take the edge off of being perfect and having to get perfect grades and stuff and living these perfect prep school lives. They want to be bad or whatever, I guess. Bad, quote unquote. Bad, quote unquote. So they point a gun at each other. They do drugs in the park. They drink a lot. Whatever. But the problem is this time, normally the gun doesn't have a bullet in it, but this time it did. Yeah. And so when it was pointed at Donnie,
it went off.
Yeah.
And Kate says, well, who pointed it at him?
Yeah.
And she says, it was Max.
Yeah.
Max pointed the gun at Donnie and shot him.
So at this time, I actually thought, like, generally you would think the case is over and da-da-da-da. Like, yeah. You would think everything is done. But then I think you like, went to see how many minutes are left, and they're like 20 minutes. And I was like, okay. Yeah. I guess there's more.
Because I wanted you to rewind it so I could watch the scene again. And then it was like, wait, there's 20 minutes left? What's going to happen? What more could happen?
Yeah, and I think
at this point it seems like an accident, right?
Yeah.
I mean, before I kind of figured it was one of the friends who did it, and I was like, okay, it was Jamie Chung's character. Oh, it's not Jamie Chung's character. Well, it must be this Max character. Mm-hmm. What's happening now?
Yeah, there's a lot of going back and forth, but like generally you would think that it was Max. Mm-hmm. That's it, the end. But they went to his house. They went to Max's house, looking for Max, and they
Castle
it was
and
just
Kate?
the mother. Yeah, Castle and Kate. They went there, and it was his mother that was there, and they asked her where Max is, and the mother was like, he's not here, and she was like, the way she was acting was like, well,
why are you here?
Why,
oh my
yeah,
god.
Like, why are you here? And they were like, we're detectives and stuff like that, and
he's wanted on a murder charge.
Yeah, then when they mentioned the arrest, like, we need to arrest him, that word, she was like, oh, I'm gonna shut up now. Like, okay, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
And then they tell him to go to the phone and make a call to her son. I guess to
find out where he is, and to stay there.
Yes.
Yeah. So that way they can come get him, and they want a picture for like the APB that they're gonna put out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then Kate gets a call.
Yeah. The call basically said that Max killed himself.
Yeah.
In the park. And at the time, like right after she said that, the mother comes back and she's like, what did she say? Like,
okay, I called him, he didn't answer. What do I do now? So what now? And they're all just kind of staring at her like,
they're like, oh, your son is dead, ma'am.
Well, they don't say that, but I remember.
But in their heads, they're probably like,
ma'am, your son is dead. He's DEAD dead.
Oh my god.
But yeah, after that, Max is dead. Max. Kate and Castle are kind of talking about it. They're going over the case again. Mm-hmm. And then Castle's kind of saying, but isn't it weird? You know, it's a bit weird because, you know, we still haven't figured out who moved the body. Mm-hmm. And then Kate's like, the body? Mm-hmm. Oh, the body. Because in her head, like, the case is wrapped up now.
Yeah.
Max accidentally shot Donnie. Max felt guilty. He went to the park. He shot himself at the end. Mm-hmm. And then she's kind of like, oh, wait, yeah, somebody came back and moved that body.
Yeah.
But the person who's like feeling guilty, they wouldn't go back and move that body. That's more somebody who's like a calculated killer. Mm-hmm. They would be thinking ahead and go back and move the body. That person would kill themselves.
The idea of like the whole guilt thing, it was like the scene after they were talking to the mother, Max's mother and everything. Alexis, like his daughter, comes in and she admitted to jumping
the turnstile. She was like, yeah, one night I was with my friends and it was really late and Dad, I'm sorry, but it was so cold and I had to get home and Alexis was and then my friend was at this train and I had to get on the train but I didn't have money and then I jumped the turnstile.
The way she was laughing, she was like, I felt so guilty.
And then Castle's just like, okay.
And then she continued, like she explained herself more and she's like, But Dad, I paid twice the next day and I didn't even ride.
Aren't you gonna punish me, Dad?
And then she just punishes herself. She's like, I'll be grounded for a week.
Yeah.
But after the Washington, D.C. trip.
Yeah.
And then he was like, okay.
And I guess that's why he kind of had this idea of guilt in his mind. Like, somebody would feel like, especially Max, because of the way he looked when they came back to question them second time.
Yeah.
He was super nervous, and he looked like he wanted to say something, but then Brandon jumped in and said something.
Yeah.
And then, so they were just, like, thinking, it's not likely that he would be the killer. It's somebody else. And so that means somebody killed him.
Basically, if the killer moved the body after the person died, he wouldn't really have so much guilt. Mm-hmm. He would be more of a cold-blooded killer.
He'd be more protecting himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they, like, the way that Max was, it didn't fit the character of the killer. He didn't seem like the type at all, because he had a lot of guilt, right?
And then they get a call from Lainey, and they go see her, and she says there's an abrasion on Max's thumb, but it's not like he shot himself. It's more like somebody put the gun in his hand
and pulled the trigger.
And also he had a lot of alcohol in his body at the time, so somebody got him drunk and killed him, basically.
Yeah. So then they went to question Spencer. Who was Spencer?
Spencer was the brown kid. Spencer was the only brown kid.
Oh. No, like, he had, like, very little role.
I know.
He was just there.
People, there are so many kids.
There are so many kids, and I know the Asian girl, Romy, and then I know the Brandon guy.
Yeah.
Like, some of them, they actually, like, during the questioning, they speak quite a bit, so you know
they stand out a bit
more. But this guy hasn't, like, he hasn't really said anything.
Yeah.
He comes in for questioning, and I'm like, who is? Oh, okay.
It's because it was his gun. That's why they bring him in.
Oh, yeah. They're like, it's your gun, your fingerprints or something like that, and then
he bought bullets for it, and he's like, but I didn't put them in the gun. I don't know how the bullets got in the gun. And then they say, well, can you where were you yesterday when Max was shot? He's like, I was at a club, and I was with Brandon, and Brandon can confirm that.
Yeah.
And then they say to him, well, fine. Well, you better hope Brandon corroborates your story, because if he doesn't, then you're in big trouble, because that's your gun. And it could be, I think they also confirmed, like, it's the same bullets or something that he had.
Yeah. So basically, like, the evidence, like, for the gun and everything, it's all pointing right at him.
At Spencer. And he looks really nervous. And also, he's there with his parents.
Yeah.
Like,
but I don't think, like, they really were suspicious of him, like, in general. They just know he might have some more information. So they just, like, evidence is all pointing at him, but we know it's not him, but he might be able to provide us with some information that'll, like, move us down the case.
But the only information they provided him with was that he was with Spencer. Yeah, I mean, not Spencer, Brandon.
Brandon, yeah.
Spencer was with Brandon. So they go to question Brandon, and Brandon is the only one without, like, a lawyer or a parent or anybody. He's by himself. Earlier,
he's the only one.
Yeah. So they question him, and he's very calm. He's almost flippant. He doesn't care. He knows that they have nothing on him. He's giving this air of, I didn't do it. It's not me.
It's like, basically, like, he's a really smart guy. Or he tries to portray that he is, like, a really smart guy who doesn't really give a shit about anything. And even if he did do it, like, he can get away with it.
Yeah. So he says to them, says to Kate and Castle that he wasn't going to show this to them because, you know, it could have gotten them into trouble, him and his friends into trouble. But he has a video of Donnie getting shot. Yeah. Oh, well, Kate says, how do you have that video? And then Brandon says, all of our phones are synced up via Bluetooth. Bluetooth link. Romy's dad hooked us up. Yeah. He works in IT. So whenever we take a video or something, it gets shared amongst all our phones.
Yes.
And we take videos of each other sometimes doing stupid shit. It's fun. We post it. It's fun. It's dumb shit, but it's fun. And I have a video of that night when Donnie got shot because we were taping that night.
I wouldn't generally show you this, but I should probably do this because of the case.
Yeah, he's like I told everyone else to delete it, but I kept it just in case you came around again asking for more evidence. And so he shows it to them, and Kate watches the video and she sees that they're all drunk, the kids are all drunk, and then Max pulls the gun out. And you know, like how they would during one of their games, and he shoots Donnie, but there was an actual bullet inside, and Donnie dies. And then Castle turns away because he can't look at the video, but Kate's still watching it because I guess she's used to it.
Yeah, for Castle it's like something new, I guess. Yeah.
So the video basically proves that Max did it, and it was an accident. So Kate and Castle are driving back again to the station to like sort of put an end to the case.
And then Castle says something like, it's really smart of them to film the whole scenario, like the whole crime like happening. It's really smart. Like, and then I think they don't do it like as often. Like, that was like the first time after a while that they
it's like, why would you film on that particular night? What was the point?
Yeah.
So Castle thinks like somebody was filming on purpose to get evidence to prove that Max shot Donnie by accident.
Yeah.
So basically the killer is covering their tracks.
Yeah. I noticed, like, in this episode, both Castle and Beckett. yeah, Castle and Beckett, oh my gosh. Castle and Kate Beckett. I noticed that they both were, like, in sync. Like, they were thinking of the same thing. Like, it's almost as if, like, their thoughts were, like, connected. So Castle would say something that was like, oh, this is, like, a little off, and then Kate would be like, oh, yeah, and this, and then she would be like, and this.
Castle wasn't interrupting Kate as much, and
they were more, like, synchronized and working together,
like,
really well. They blended, like, really well.
Compared to the last episode, they worked really well together this time. It was like Kate knew Castle's strengths and Castle knew Kate's strengths, and they knew when
and they just kind of bounced off of each other.
Yeah, they knew who should press a person first, and then who should continue pressing after. You know what I mean? Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, so they had like that kind of moment at this point too. So Castle was like, "Oh, it's so smart of them to film," and then she's like, "Oh yeah, it is." Like, oh
yeah, it's like, why would you film on this particular night? Like, this is just a random night. And they do film each other, but, it's just, why tonight when they're not really doing anything special? Yeah.
How did they, like, end up going to Amanda for questioning?
Oh, they questioned Donnie's parents again, and they find out that
Amanda and Donnie
were dating, but then they broke up. So they go to Amanda and question her, and that's when I noticed her Om tattoo, and I was like, of course this girl, this rich girl at a prep school has an Om tattoo.
And all these little piercings and stuff like that.
Yeah. Very Om, very Nirvana.
Very hip.
Very hip, very Om, very Nirvana. So they question her. And they figure out that, yes, she dated Donnie, but Donnie broke up with her. And that was because
she hooked up with Brandon.
Yes. She's like, after he lost all of his money, Donnie checked out and Brandon was there for me. And they say to him, yeah, but Brandon's like, he's been lying and stuff. And right?
Yeah. She was like, basically trying to protect Brandon.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh,
Brandon wouldn't do that. If Brandon had a reason for doing anything, it would have been a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She basically doesn't doubt Brandon at all.
Yeah.
And then
Castle's like,
but
Brandon,
wasn't it Brandon that told you to start filming that day?
Yeah.
And then her eyes like just went, like, her eyes, that's when you could tell that she also had a little bit of doubt.
Yeah.
Because she was like, her eyes were just like wandering everywhere, and she was thinking about that night. Or whatever.
Because I think Castle and Kate realized that Brandon was the one who lied about about there being $200 that needed to be paid to some guy. So he's been lying this entire time. But obviously this girl Amanda believes in him. But then there's some doubt now because he made you film that night. Yeah. Wouldn't he have asked you to film so that where there could be evidence that it wasn't...
Yeah, because nothing special was happening that day besides the murder. So unless he knew about the murder or whatever, he wouldn't have asked her to film.
Kate and Castle go back to the school to question Brandon again, who's still by himself.
Yeah.
And then they say to him, Spencer's told us that you lied about your alibi, that you weren't with him at his dad's club.
Yep.
So where were you? And he's like, I went for a walk. And then he starts hitting on Kate. He's like, hey, you know what, detective, you're hot and all, but you don't have anything against me. It's just what you're saying. You don't have any evidence.
Like, cool guy attitude, like not cool guy, but like,
he's pretending to be cool. He's just really skeevy.
Oh, he's very like playful with his words too, and he was saying, "Oh, even if I did do that, like how are you gonna prove that? Like, let's see what you're gonna prove. Mm-hmm. And he walks away all
it's like a game for him. And even Castle says, this is a game for you, isn't it? Yeah. He's like, it might be, but it's really fun. Try to prove it.
And then he walks away.
Yeah.
And
because he's basically like, I could hire any lawyer to disprove what you're saying right now, because if I wasn't with Spencer, then I went for a walk. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just said I was with Spencer because I didn't think you'd believe that I went for a walk. That's it.
Yeah. Jeez. Mm-hmm. And Castle was like, I hate that kid.
And I was like, me too, Castle. Me too.
I feel you. And then he squirms like a kid who's like dying to poop or something.
Did you just say dying to poop?
The way he like moves his hand instead is like a kid, like a tiny little kid, and he's just like, I need to pee.
What kind of child were you?
Not me. It's just from watching kids.
Why do you watch kids? What are you doing?
When I was a photographer, I watched kids.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, mommy. Teacher, I need to poo.
Oh my god.
It's true, that's how they do. Anyways, yes.
Okay, where did they go after that?
So they went back to the station, and they were just talking out.
Kate and Beckett,
yeah.
And they're talking it out with Esposito and Kevin.
Mm-hmm. About the case details.
Because basically it still seems like it's just a suicide, because Brandon still has that video. It proves that Max killed Donnie by accident and committed suicide.
Well, that's how the evidence points to.
Yeah.
But they know in their gut that that's not the case.
Yeah, especially because of the way Brandon's acting. He's saying he did it, but he's not really saying he did it.
Yeah.
It's the way he's acting.
He's just being a smartass about it. And then they're thinking about everything that's happened so far and what people have, what the suspects have told them, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Kate realized Brandon was saying about how all of their phones were synced to the Bluetooth link.
Yeah.
And how it was shared automatically, right?
Yeah.
And they realized that Max's phone automatically synced to Brendan's on the day of the murder, on the day of Max's murder.
Yeah.
So then they
have proof basically that Brandon was with Max when he was murdered. He can't lie and say that he went for a walk or anything like that. So they bring Brandon in for questioning, and again, he doesn't have any lawyer. And they say to him, you can get a lawyer if you like. And he's like, I don't think I'm going to need one. And Kate says, okay, then why don't you just sign this confession form then? Mm-hmm. And he's like, okay, I confess that I'd love to cop a feel under your blouse, detective.
And that just made me irk so much. I was like, bleh, bleh, like, perv.
No, he's just a huge jerk. He's such a jerk. He's like, he has all of this fake confidence that I liken to a certain politician, but he has all of this fake confidence in him, and he knows you can't prove anything. I have a video. It shows that Max killed Donnie. You have nothing against me. If you have evidence, detective, use it and arrest me. Basically, that's what he says.
Yeah. And then Castle does this thing where he tries to make a scenario playing out for Brandon. And first he talks about this restaurant.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, they have really good black squid pasta. And I was like, oh, what's that?
Squidding
pasta.
Good. Yeah, that sounds really good.
And Brandon was like, yeah, I like that place.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Castle was like, oh, you basically got Max drunk, then pulled the trigger on Max.
Well, he says this scenario I was at the restaurant, and I'm talking to this guy on my phone, and the valet comes up with my car, and then my phone cuts off, and I'm like, oh, well, what happened? And I realize it's automatically connected to the Bluetooth in my car.
That's when they let Brandon know that.
Yeah, we know about the Bluetooth link, and Brandon's like, yeah, so what? Well, if there's a link between all of your phones, we know that you were there when Max was killed, so you can't say that you weren't. He's like, well, why would I kill Max? There's no reason for me to kill Max. There's no reason for me to shoot Donnie. And they're like,
maybe Max remembered about Brandon giving him the loaded gun. And then maybe Max like put all the puzzle pieces together, and
he knew, and he's like, but why would I shoot Donnie? And it's like, because of Amanda. You wanted Amanda. And he's like, I have Amanda. It's like, no. You're just, well, Kate says the term sloppy seconds.
Yeah.
Which is a very interesting term. Very loaded term. But, like, she says to him,
very powerful
term. You were sloppy seconds, basically, because she was with Donnie. And then she only left him to be with you because
he got poor,
because he was poor.
Yeah.
There was no other reason for that. Like, you were just there, basically.
Yeah.
And you knew that, so you wanted to get. I broke your cabinet.
That's okay. It's just a sticker thing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll put it back.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry, 1 second. Fixing things. It's done.
Yeah.
So where was I?
Yeah, sloppy seconds.
Oh no. So you're thinking, and you know that Max knows about you and Amanda and Donnie. So he probably could put together the fact that you gave him the gun.
Yeah.
And he's thinking, did my friend make me shoot my best friend?
Yeah.
And did he ask his girlfriend to film it for evidence?
Yeah.
So he wants to talk to you about it.
Yeah.
You go speak to him, and you're thinking, I have to do something about this. So you give him what? Scotch, vodka? Is he a whiskey man? You get him drunk, and you get him to shoot himself.
In order to basically just bring yourself more confidence, I guess, to be with Amanda.
No. It's like to protect himself. He basically planned the whole thing. He made sure, he wanted to kill Donnie, so he made somebody else do it. So, and then he made sure it was filmed, so that way it couldn't be pinned against him.
Yeah.
So that's why.
That video basically works with him versus against him.
It also works against him, too, because he shot the video and they have the Bluetooth link up.
Yeah.
They know that he was with Max on that day, and they know why he did it. But Brandon's still not budging. So Castle comes over to him and gets real close to him and goes up to his ear and is like, isn't it terrible when people are weak and, people just can't be strong? Why couldn't Amanda just see that you were the right one, not Donnie? Why couldn't anybody see that? Isn't it terrible when people just can't be strong like you and help you? And Brandon looks over and goes, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like the whole time Castle is talking, Brandon is getting it. It's like he really got to Brandon.
His eyes were fixated and more intensified
as Castle
kept speaking. Yeah, because Castle was in a way, he was trying to get into Brandon's mindset to see how he would be thinking about the whole thing. And then he just felt it out in words, and it's like Brandon was already on the same page. Whatever he was saying was the exact truth. So his eyes were just yes, that's exactly it.
Right. Why can't people be strong like me? I'm strong.
Yeah.
Nobody knows that. Nobody knows the way I feel. Why are people like this?
Yeah. And that's when he says exactly, because his words he felt it and then he said it out loud exactly.
And then Castle goes, did you hear that? Did you hear him? He said exactly. And then Brennan's he tricked me, and Castle's no, it's not trickery. I forgot the term that they used, but they were no, it's a confession. That's a confession. You did
it's a confession.
Yeah. So they got it. It was Brandon, basically.
Yeah.
And then we get to the final scene. What we forgot to mention was that one of the reasons Castle didn't want to leave for the DC trip was because he didn't want to leave his mom at home, because the last time she was at home, she threw a huge party, went into his liquor cabinet, and broke a lot of crap, basically.
Yeah.
But then he comes back and he realizes he should probably, not only for his daughter's safety, but just to spend time with her, he should go with her on the DC trip. So he decides to go with her, and then Castle's mom comes in. And she's like, have fun, you kids. And she opens the door and lets in all of these people.
Basically, she's doing the same thing again.
Yeah, and she's like, no. I'm just having a what is it? A life coaching seminar. What did she call it?
Be the change you want to be.
Yeah. and then Castle's like, no, it looks like you're trying to coach everybody towards my liquor cabinet.
Yeah, and people you would see like people going towards a liquor and like cheering and stuff like that before.
Yeah, and his daughter's just like, come on, let's go, it's all right. And then the door closes and all you hear is, okay, everybody, who wants a drink?
Champagne, anyone?
Champagne?
Yeah.
And that's basically the whole episode.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Yeah, I liked it. I liked this episode a lot as well.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's like on the same level as the last episode.
Yeah, the killer was different this time. The killer last time was like it was an accident basically. Mm-hmm. This time it was like deliberate. It was on purpose. Yeah. It was like cold and calculated killer.
Yeah.
And what makes it even weirder and more chilling is that it's a young kid.
Yeah.
And I think I said to you after the episode was over that kid was going on about being strong and everything and about the weak, but he was the weak one really. He was insecure. And
he had a lot of ego as well.
Yeah, it was like this fake confidence that he was putting on. He was insecure about the fact he didn't think Amanda really liked him. He thought of himself as sloppy seconds or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's why he wanted to get back at Donnie. And even Castle was like, Donnie, when he was trying to get to him, when he was trying to get to Brandon and get him on his side, Castle said to Brandon, Donnie isn't even one of you guys anymore, and here he is. He's trying to get his girl back and stuff, and you have to teach him a lesson. Mm-hmm. And so it's all this fake bravado he's trying to show off. So he is the weak one, really.
Yeah. And also when they like interviewed Amanda, like Amanda didn't like there's no sense of Amanda still having feelings for Donnie either. Like she was like completely on Brandon's side. Mm-hmm. You could tell that she actually really cared for Brandon in that case. But it's like for Brandon, he was like, oh, she probably has feelings for Donnie, blah, blah, blah. Like, so it was all this like insecure.
Mm-hmm. And to think this was all just about the fact that she used to be with Donnie and stuff. To think that he did all this crap and he shot his friend and he got his other friend shot just for that. It's disgusting.
Yeah. And the way that he played it off by being like such a smart ass, like, you can't get me.
Yeah. Detective, you're really hot. I want to put my hand up your shirt. Yeah, I swear to God, that kid. I'm glad that they actually caught him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I think I'd give this one. I think I gave the last one like an 8 and 8.5. Give this one a 7.5.
I would give it a 7.
7?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, we said we were gonna rank the characters.
Mm-hmm.
I think number 1, I think I like Lainey. Lainey was really important. Like even when she was examining the body, she's like nobody would be looking for this abrasion on the thumb, but I'm giving it to you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I'm awesome. And then I would probably do Kate. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't do her, but I would probably say Kate. Rate her as the second. Mm-hmm. And then Castle has really risen up, but I like his mom more, so his mom. And then his dog.
But if you were okay, so are you rating the characters based on how much you liked them in this episode, or
overall?
Overall, okay.
Yeah. So the mom, and then maybe the daughter, and then maybe Castle, and then Esposito and Kevin, and then the sergeant at the bottom. Yeah, and then that Brandon kid, all the way down at the bottom, like under some swamp or something. Yeah.
Sorry, that Brandon kid is like out somewhere.
Like, he's not even like on the radar. He's not on the radar.
He's not connected to the Bluetooth link.
Oh my God. He's not in sync with the rest of us.
I would actually, you know what? Alexis had a lot of input during this.
She helps without like not even realizing.
Yeah, like she just talks to Castle
her
and
papa.
He was like, oh,
Papa,
like this relates. This relates. Like,
Papa,
oh, you're giving me. Like... Oh my God.
What?
I think of that video when you say that.
Oh. Why did you leave me, Papa? Papa. I should link that video. It's called Desktop Stripper.
Yes. It's
by Lazy Pillow, but yeah, I'll link it.
Yeah. It's a good video.
It's a good video?
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with this.
It has nothing to do, absolutely nothing, but it's Papa. So I would say for this case, I would I would put Beckett on top as number 1.
Beckett's on top.
Number 1. She's rated number 1. And then I would say the daughter, Alexis. Mm-hmm. And then I would say Castle. Mm-hmm. And then Lainey. Mm. And everyone else is the same.
Everyone else is the same. Everybody else is 5.
I mean, like, exactly the same as you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that we're at the end of the podcast, which is pretty good because we spent about 15 minutes trying to get this microphone working.
Technology problems. Yes.
Yes. But anyhow, Doopmund.
Yes.
Where can people find you?
Instagram. I have my personal one.
Yes.
At DevaStars4. DevaStars4. And then I have my food blog as well on Instagram at t.foodlove.
Mm-hmm. TDOT, food love.
Yes. And was there something else that I provided last time? I don't remember.
No, I don't think so.
I guess that's it. Yeah.
Oh, what are you on TikTok?
At Luna the Lovely Cat, I believe.
Luna the Lovely Cat on TikTok.
Yes.
And I am Tresha Does Nothing on Insta, and on YouTube I am Tresha Does Nothing as well on my secondary channel where I post variety crap.
Yes.
Yes. Wow. I'll link them in the description for all of you. Yes. And that will be us. That is us. We are done.
Our conclusion. Now
I want dinner.
Finally sip some tea.
I want dinner. That wasn't very good, AS. I bet you that was like really shit, AS.
Let me do it again. Ah.